Hello lovely people. This is the first in a series of videos where I play one rapid game per day, 5 days a week, not 7. And the point of it is that you get to see me play and think about what I'm doing, what moves I'm going to make and what I'm considering my opponent's going to do without having to watch a very long video where I do that in a classical game. I will still post those, but some people don't want to watch a 37-minute video of me speaking my thoughts. Some just want to see a shorter video. So I will do that. This is at complete odds with the claim I made a while ago that I will no longer play rapid games. They're not for me. Disgusting. I can't think straight. I'm cross. Very, very cross. I communicated. But the point is, I'll only play one a day. I haven't played a rapid game since I said that, so I have stuck to that. But I would like to give you an opportunity to see me play, and I would like to play one game a day and limit myself to that. So this is what that is. I hope you enjoy. I am 1433. I am paired with Bogdan, DG1, 1440. So I'm playing e4. If they play e5, I will play the Scotch. And if they play c6, I think I was just going to play d4 straight away. They would play d5 in that situation, and I think I will push. I think this is the Caro-Kann. I faced this and lost recently because I didn't understand the pawn structure, and I will have less time to not understand it this time, in this game. Okay, so they play c5 very early. My opponent, who beat me in the Caro-Kann, kindly had a post-mortem with me where we had a call together, and they said, in the Caro-Kann, you've got to make sure you don't push c5 too early. There's a time to push c5, and if you do it too early, you lose, or you run the risk of losing. I think this is too early. I can't believe that move 2 is the time to play c5, but I need to work out why. I want to push c3 because I don't want to lose that central pawn, but that doesn't develop, and I kind of feel like I should take the opportunity to develop and prove that my opponent doesn't have the time to be wasting moves, because c6 and then c5, that's wasting time. Okay, I think I am going to develop. It's against my nature, but to get better, I have to play against my nature. So I'm playing knight f3. My opponent doesn't have to take c takes d4 because there's no rush to do that. I am defending that pawn twice. It's attacked twice. I could pin the knight, but then if a6, I can't keep that pin because then my bishop will get trapped with b5 and then c4. I'm going to develop the bishop. The dark squared bishop. Yep, fair enough. I want to take with the knight because I don't want to lose my bishop. Didn't see that. Okay, that's fine. They are up a pawn, but if I should just prove that my development is way better. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to continue to develop, maybe with tempo by giving a check with the bishop on f1 to b5. Yep. And then if they block with the bishop, then I'll play queen e2, I think. Again, just focusing on development and trying to prove that, yes, I'm down a pawn, but you haven't moved anything. Like, you've got a knight out, and that's it. I wouldn't even have to play queen e2 because the bishop is defended by the knight. So I could just castle. Castle or knight c3. I'm going to play queen e2 because I'd like to take back with the check. Or instead, I could take with the knight, eyeing up c7, and if with a view to moving my bishop again to f4 at some point, attacking this undefended. Didn't expect that. Okay, I was thinking about moving my bishop here to f4, and it doesn't work because bishop takes bishop on b5 and my queen is attacked. So I think I should unfortunately help them develop, but the only other option really is bishop d3, and then I'm trading off one of their only developed pieces. But I like to do that. I'd like to. There are other slightly developed pieces with that bishop, so I'm quite happy to trade that. Okay, and now I do kind of want to develop this knight, eye up this pawn. Okay. So they're ahead on time, and they're ahead in material by just one central pawn. But they have two central pawns and I have none because they traded their c pawn. So I'm hoping that they, on their next move their bishop out, because if they do, I can move my bishop to h6, threatening the knight on e5, because my queen is looking at that, and it's undefended. And if they take the pawn, if they take with the pawn my bishop, they've messed up their king side pawn structure, and I get the queen centralized, and it's a good exchange for me, I think. And if they don't take the bishop and instead try and escape with that knight, then the bishop can take the pawn, attacking the rook and the knight. So it's like forking the rook and the knight. So it's just, yeah, I think that would be good. So let's just hope. I know we shouldn't play hope chess. I'm not going to make any moves that rely on that happening, but just it's there. It's an idea. So I have got the c4 break at some point. I think I should just centralize my rook, eyeing up the queen, and if they do move their knight to e4 now, I can take, and I'm threatening some discoveries for my d4 knight to move out the way against the queen. Okay, that did happen. So they have moved their bishop. I think I can do this. Moving my bishop to h6. Is there a way for them to cover that pawn and get that knight into safety? Nope. No, there isn't. Oh, I almost moved that knight then. Or I almost tried to move that knight. Okay, so I've got a nice centralized rook. This one's not doing too bad either, the f1 rook. How can I take advantage of this? They can castle queenside. My queen doesn't stop that at the moment. They can't move their bishop to d6, but they might move their queen there. That rook move isn't really threatening anything at the moment, but it's worth keeping an eye on. I like that my knight can go to a4 and then b6, forking the queen and rook at this point. And if the king castled, that would be even more juicy. So maybe it's worth prepping that. If I moved b3 to prepare the knight to jump to a4, then they could just go b5. But then their king is pretty unsafe if it ever decides to castle queenside. I'm also looking at f4, trying to undermine these central pawns, the pawns in front of the king. They have a dark squared bishop though, so I should be careful of this diagonal opening up. It's easy to parry though. It's easy to just move the king over to h1. I like that. The rook's on f1 already doing its job, looking down that file, so why not just rip open that file, let the rook do something without having to waste a tempo moving it. Okay, queen attacked. Basically, it's a question of queen to e2 or queen to e1. Or h5, but I don't like the idea of putting it on h5. The only point is to try and win a pawn. Is pinning a pawn, though, is pinning the f pawn to the king. But that would run into a fork where I would have, my opponent would have knight e3, so I don't want to do that. Forking my 2 rooks, and actually forking the pawn as well, because the pawn on g2 would be hanging at that point. I like queen e2. It gets out the way of the rooks, and it is looking at that knight. Even though it's defended at this point, it is looking at it. 12 minutes 47 to 6:47. Not concerned, but probably should move a little bit faster. I definitely want to play f5, like now. So what's my opponent going to do to stop me playing f5? I mean, castling wouldn't stop me doing it, I don't think. f5 is the move which completely undermines black's central pawns, including d5, because if they took on f5, then... Okay, here we go. I think this is the point where we step across with the king. Need to keep an eye on knight f2 now. Okay, so one of the reasons I moved across with the king is because it unpins the knight on d4 to the king, or from the king, and also it gets the king out of the line of fire of that g8 rook. And now I'm looking at maybe a rook lift. Rook f1 to f3, threatening rook g3. Okay. I said it wouldn't matter if they castled, I would still want to play f5. Is that still on the cards? Does that still do good stuff? I wonder if first I should play h3, kicking that knight away. Back to f6. Meaning that the king can never, or for the meantime, the king would never be able to go to b8, because I would be able to play queen e5, forking the rook, forking the knight and the king. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to play a little bit faster. I'm gonna do this because I want to get. I'm playing h3 because I want to get that knight off d4 at some point. I want to be able to play knight takes f5, and at that point, if I move the knight, if the knight and the knight on g4 is still there, then there is that forking opportunity on f2. Okay, let's play. I'm looking at pawn takes on e6, threatening the queen. The queen might take back, and then queen takes queen on e6, and pawn takes queen, and then I take the bishop, and I'm on the knight. I don't think there's any point doing it in that order, though. I don't think I'm getting much out of that. I was just trying to think if there was a move order difference I could make to threaten that knight, but it doesn't. I don't think it does anything spectacular. I think now I win a knight. Yep. Just check I'm not going to get mated. My heart goes, like, I get nervous even if I get myself in a winning position. Like there, they didn't notice, I don't think, that the knight was hanging. Or at least they didn't. They made a mistake, I think, unless they're going to show me that they've thought of something much deeper than I've thought of. But even then, I'm like, you're winning! You've won a knight! Be nervous! Be concerned! Okay, I think I'm winning a pawn with the rook. I could get the queens off by taking with the queen on e6, but I could win the pawn on d5 with a rook after that. I think I think we're in a good place. Although, I like the queens off. The queens off is nice. Yeah, let's get the queens off. I've got less time and I'm up material. With a check. Takes. My rooks are a bit more active. The d4 rook eyeing up the d5 pawn, and my e6 rook is almost a 7th rank rook, and I don't think there's much they can do to stop that happening. Okay, I could come across with my d4 rook to g4 and get another pair of pieces off, or I could just push g4 and say your attempt at activating your rooks has failed and my rooks are still active. I'm going to do that. They may just push. Yep, that's fine. And now I can make that. I want to make that rook a 7th rank rook. I could just take a pawn here, and I think I will do that. Will I take a pawn with the rook and get a pair of rooks off? I think it's probably best. I've got less time. Yep, that's fine. Okay, if I go rook e7, they will almost certainly give me a check on h4. But then their rook is in front of the pawn, and that's not great for them. Whereas my rook's on their 2nd rank, which is great for me. Just need to make sure I don't lose all these pawns. And I think I will win. I may not be able to commentate all that well in this part of the game. And okay, I think I'm going to keep all these pawns. I was umming and ahhing as to whether to try and let one go, but I think given my time and me not being all that good at playing with such low time, it's probably best if I try and keep those pawns. There's a danger I would like try and win their h pawn, let them take one of my pawns on the queen side, and then end up just losing them all. You missed it. How could you miss the last game, me winning the game? So my battery ran out, so I'm sorry about that. I think you were still here when I took the pawn. And then they moved the king. I don't know exactly why they moved it to d6. Not sure their plan there. But gave a check. And when they came to e5, I can attack the pawn, and when it moves, I can then fork the king and rook, and my opponent resigned there. So, nice little game. Decided to not analyze it on camera. This video, the point of this video is that it's rather short, and it gives you an opportunity to see me play without investing a whole lot of time. So let's leave it at that. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll chat to you soon. Goodbye.